so the next thing we're going to touch on is that buyer agency contract. Briefly mentioned it in the consumer notice video, but in short, what this is it's a formal employment contract between myself as the real estate professional and you as the consumer. It just outlines our relationship, right? So similar to the consumer notice, where it kind of help you as the consumer understand your options. This goes one step further and really outlines some of those terms. So how long we're working together, how I'm being paid, who is paying that compensation, and there's a couple other things we're going to step through here as well. So again, today we're reviewing the BAC, also known as the buyer's agency contract. The top of the form is pretty straightforward. My contact information and brokerage affiliation. When you receive this to sign, the majority of this will already be filled out. It's just important you read through it, make sure nothing sticks out, and that we return it signed. Again, you will receive this document as part of your onboarding package. So even if we're not ready to write up an offer on a house yet, you will see this come through just to establish our relationship and make sure we're all aligned going forward. Again, biggest and most obvious part of the contract here is the starting and end date. A typical buyer agency agreement is anywhere from 3 to 6 months. In some situations, you might alter this term here. Let's say you were hesitant about using a particular realtor. That would never be the case with myself. But if you wanted to test someone out for a few weeks or a month, you might be very explicit in at this point in the contract. The broker's fee, obviously, this is the elephant in the room as it relates to what this contract really covers. Again, as the buyer, the majority of the compensation that is paid to your real estate agent is paid by the selling side, right, as part of the commission. There is a flat administrative fee that each brokerage charges anywhere from $350 to $550. At Coldwell Banker, it is $395. So that is the flat fee that you as the consumer are paying me, the real estate professional in this particular case. Again, that will be a charge, a line item on your Alta statement. So it is contingent on a purchase happening in this case. You're not paying that unless the services are rendered of finding you a home. Another thing I get a lot of questions about is, this 4% here. That's only in the contract if for whatever reason we were to find ourselves in a transaction where I would essentially have to represent both sides. So a lot of heavy lifting there. Typically, this fee will be left blank because it does vary for each listing. Most sales today are usually listing for 5%, and that's split by the sale and list, or I'm sorry, the selling and the listing broker. So it usually goes 2.5 each side, but that could change. Again, that's paid by the sale side, so not too much to be concerned about. In the event that someone's not represented, we do charge a 4% flat fee to the seller because it's a little bit more heavy lifting in that case. So I encourage you to read through this line by line. I'm going to skim over it. Of course, ask me some questions after the fact if something isn't clear. Again, I know we touched on dual agency a little bit in the consumer notice contract. This dives in a little bit further and explains what that's like to be a dual agent. The next 2 pages of the contract really spell out what are the broker and real estate professional's duties to other people related in the transaction, sellers, contractors, other licensees, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of it is also pertaining to, again, what that relationship is between myself and the client. One area I always like to point out in going over this agreement is Section 9 here, this expertise of real estate agents. Again, it's an expectation that is sent that's basically saying me as a professional, it is my duty to disclose to you as the consumer things that are to be reasonably understood as a professional that you might not otherwise know as a consumer. So I think a really good example of this is if we're on tour, I've depending on your situation, I might be able to call out certain things I notice as it relates to the builder's quality, right? I deal with a lot of new construction development here in the city. I know a lot of the builders, so I may be able to advise you on builder reputations, or if I do see something that is a little off for one reason or another, that would be my duty to educate you on some of those things to look out for and seek further um, due diligence, if you will. The deposit money is an important section as well. It just discloses who is holding any earnest monies throughout the real estate transaction. There's an important section here about the buyer's inspections. Again, this is really an area of the contract to help the consumer understand that the real estate agent is there to advocate on their behalf, but they are not, um, you know, necessarily standing behind the product that is being sold any more than what has been disclosed to them. So through the seller's disclosure, through public record, this and that. And so there's a lot of different vehicles in the real estate agreement of sale that you as the consumer can take advantage of depending on the situation of the offer, so that we can understand a little bit more about the property, property inspections, and so forth. So that's what this section takes care of. A little section here about the recording of the deed and title. If you're curious about the Pennsylvania Real Estate Recovery Fund, there's a little snippet in there about that as well. I always add this additional terms here, again, back to that administrative flat fee and the buyer's agency commission. It just to make it super clear for each of my clients that they are simply not paying the bulk of my compensation. So there is that flat fee that is unfortunately part of the Coldwell Banker and any brokerage that you work with fee structure. But again, the benefit of using a real estate agent on the buy side is you truly are paying such a small fraction of what it costs to have that professional involved. And at the very end, we will get your signatures and mine as well, and that will complete this document. So if you have any questions, let me know. Pretty straightforward. This is the buyer's agency agreement.